Hey friends, Rob Phoenix, Hexenmeister here. Earlier today, I did a video about ancestral veneration in powwow and how it's not really a thing. Um, but I had mentioned in passing a ritual about um, a Hexenmeister ritual that comes to us from the cunning practice of Europe, um, English cunning magic, whatever you want to call it. But there's a ritual for calling on the spirit of a recently deceased person, um, basically to get them to do what you need them to do. And in general, that's to respond to a question. Like if you need some information from someone who has recently died, um, that's what that ritual pertained to. So what was hilarious is uh, immediately my phone started bing, bing, bing. So two of my powwow friends and one non-powwow but occult oriented friend, they all wanted to know what ritual I was talking about and would I share it with them. And so I thought, well, it's not a secret um, because it's published. But and I even mentioned the book it was published in that first video, which was A Cunning Man's Grimoire. The Secret of Secrets, that's the subtitle to it. So I thought I'd do a quick video just talking about that particular ritual because this is a Hexenmeister ritual. So as a Hexenmeister, it takes you to a level beyond powwow. So this is where you start to get into that sort of hidden ceremonial magic where you're reaching out to angels and such, various spiritual entities, that sort of thing, um, for information. So like back in the day when your local cunning man or your local powwow or broker, you would go to them to seek lost objects, that sort of thing. Or maybe a relative had owned something and then they passed away and you wanted to know where that was. That object, that thing was that they owned. You wanted it. This is the type of work that they would do behind the scenes. They wouldn't tell you they were doing this, but I'm going to tell you, I'm going to reveal a little bit about the work of a Hexenmeister. So, one of the first steps for a Hexenmeister is to start building up a rapport, like a relationship with various angelic spiritual things and beings, not things, spiritual personalities, entities, that sort of thing. Um, and the way you do that is through the use of ceremonial magic, where you invoke these. Generally, the rituals are kind of long and drawn out, but you really had to kind of put yourself out there. It's like petitioning, it's petitioning to speak to somebody of authority and getting their attention. And you can understand the parallel in the real world might be you want to speak to the CEO of your company, but you're like me, this low level employee. And so you have to go through your supervisor and then they have to go through their manager and then the director of your division and then regional directors and managers and such until you can reach the top, if ever. So ceremonial magic is like that. It's, just think of yourself as the magical Karen. You want to speak to the manager, but you got to go through all the employees first. Um, but it's like that. You build it up, and you build trust and um, relationships with various angelic entities and such until you can expand your work and reach higher and higher and higher. And eventually, you start to build these relationships with very powerful entities. So it's not work to be undertaken lightly. I've been doing this for many, many years, and I've only scratched the surface of what a Hexenmeister does just because it is so much. It's so labor intensive and time intensive. And I mean, I have a career and a family. Um, I don't have, 10 hours a day to devote in ritual circle. I just don't. So anyway, which reminds me, eventually I'm going to do a video about the Abramelin ritual because I have many thoughts on that. I haven't done it, but anyway, that's a whole other can of worms. So I want to talk to you about a little bit about the type of a thing that a Hexenmeister does. And this is Trying to think of how many. Four. I'm gonna, yeah, four. I know four Hexenmeisters. We all have a very different approach at how we do things, but a couple of things are across the board what we all do, and this will be one of them. And I'm going to share, this is not secret, oath-bound information. This is information that's freely published, freely available if you want to buy the book. But I'm just going to tell you, it is one of the things that some of us do. So the first thing that you want to do is when you build that relationship with a certain angelic entity, and in this case, it's the angel Escariel. So sometimes thought to be an angel, sometimes thought to be a lesser type of angel, certainly not an archangel, but Ascariel is thought to be the angelic being that reveals hidden things and the truth. Um, there is this lengthy, intensive ritual where you dedicate a crystal sphere to Ascariel, and then use that for scrying. But the ritual involves, I'm not going to tell you the whole ritual. Like a lot of that stuff is in here. A Cunning Man's Grimoire, The Secret of Secrets. Um, and again, this is formulated in such a way that you'll need other books to flesh out what you read in here. Um, it goes along with that whole initiatory, those who have eyes to see will see, those who have ears to hear will hear. What I'm about to say will mean nothing to most people, but if you're a Hexenmeister, or carrying on remnants of cunning craft, like true cunning folk magic, you'll understand what I'm about to say. So anyway, the very first step is to build that relationship with Ascariel. Then there is this lengthy ritual that we do to devote a crystal sphere to for scrying with Ascariel. Now, what sets this apart from just basic like meditating or whatever is the ritual is designed to um, summon Ascariel or call him forth, but then you bind him, and there is a whole binding um, situation in here. It gives you the symbology and such. You'll probably won't be able to see it. It's a lot of glare. I write in my books, so you'll always see a lot of notes in my books. Um, so here's a good ritual. Here's like the symbols that you use to bind Ascariel, and then you do your divination, or in this case, we're talking about the ritual to call upon the spirit of somebody, bind the spirit of somebody who's recently deceased. And so in this situation, now just a little note here, I've never done the part that I'm about to talk about, just because I have some weird feelings about it. However, it doesn't mean I won't ever do it, but I've tried it successfully in my life so far to not go there, and I'm in my 50s, so I think I'm good. But anyway, if you need to speak to the spirit of someone recently deceased, and here's I kind of touched on the specifics of it, but I'll give you more specifics. You call on Ascariel with the lengthy ritual as found in this book, and then you go back to earlier pages in this book. You see, I have notes because I learned this, but I've just not done it yet. Um, Go to the grave of a man or a woman with the moon increasing. The first night after the body is buried, make a circle, then stand in it and say, and here's the part where you do the invocation to or the summoning of Ascariel and call him forth and bind him, and then um, you now you speak the deceased person's name, that thou presently appear unto me, or presently that thou permit, and now you're speaking to Ascariel, permit the spirit of this person, say their name, whose body lies here for the present, to appear unto me, and that he yield me his service, obedience, and that obey and do my will. So you're calling on Ascariel, and then you're telling Ascariel, like, wake this person up, because Ascariel, while he is known as the kind of like the revealer of truths, the revealer of hidden things. He's also known as the keeper of the bones of the dead, or the king of the dead. So he is the angelic spiritual entity that we Hexenmeisters would contact when we need to speak to someone who's dead. Um, so that's Iscariel. So there's a little, that's kind of like a little Hexenmeister secret. Do with it what you will. I'm not worried about it. So then you're going to basically conjure, well, you bring forth Iscariel and he's going to raise this person from the dead. And then you ask, you have to bind the person, just like you bound Iscariel. Um, and then you get to ask your question. Um, and so stuff like this really is hardcore. I'm making it sound like this trivial thing that you and your buddies can do after having some beers up in the mountain. Don't do that. But the bottom line is this is hardcore stuff. Like the work of a hexameister is pretty hardcore. And like I said, I've done some of these things with Ascario, but never that summoning the deceased person's spirit. I've never needed to. And I hope I don't because it sounds pretty hardcore. But anyway, that's you can read about the specifics of the two rituals I was just talking about in a Cunning Man's Grimoire. But you're going to need some training that you'll receive from other Grimoire books. My eyes are very itchy. But it all connects. It all connects. It all works together. So you really have to have an understanding of different types of ceremonial magic. There's a good one, like Israel Regardi is a good one, but not the end all and be all. So you really want to build up your skills within ceremonial magic, and that takes time, and you can't rush it because ceremonial magic is a lot of learning symbolism. You know, things that tap into your unconscious mind and things that represent one thing in the physical world, but has all these like associations on other levels of reality. I'm losing my sense of what all the words are, but metaphysical. That's what I was looking for. So yeah, there we go. So I just wanted to talk about that Hexenmeister ritual. I hope it kind of gives you an understanding. Like people have often said, like, "Oh, I really want to do some Hexenmeister training." That's not for the faint of heart. And I've actually tried to teach people over the years, but I failed miserably because I just can't. I don't know. I don't know how to do that. Like unless you're physically present with me and we see each other every day and have hours of time to spend together, otherwise I can't, how do you teach that through email or a YouTube video? So anyway, that's where that's at. So that gives you a little insight into what a Hexenmeister does. There you go. So if you have any questions, leave them down below. Do like and thumbs ups and subscribes and all this other stuff. And that's it. God bless you guys. Love you. We'll talk again soon.